now calling this meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call. Townsend. Here. McKiernan.
Here.
Mugia. Here. Maddox.
Here.
Kane. Here. Markley. Here. Walters. Here. Philbrook. Here. Walker. Here. Holland.
Here. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. This evening, the invocation is being given by Reverend George Kemper of Ebenezer Ministers. Please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Shall we bow our heads? Lord, we are meeting today to conduct the business, and on behalf of our city, we ask that you bless and guide our hearts and our minds and our spirit of fairness and right speech. Impart upon us the wisdom of our activities and our affairs to reach a successful conclusion. Bless this meeting with your divine intelligence. We are diverse opinion here, but we ask that your wisdom guide us. And for all those concerned, thank you for your heavenly blessings. Thank you for being our source and guidance for today. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend, for being here tonight. We appreciate it. We're going to begin with a recognition before we start our full meeting. We're going to recognize and acknowledge tonight Jeff Johnson. Mr. Johnson, who was recently inducted into the Midwest Section Professional Golf Association Hall of Fame. We're going to read a proclamation, and then Tom Roberts will have a presentation. But as this proclamation is read, I would ask the commission to please step down to the front so we can greet Mr. Johnson, and we can do that quietly while this is being read.
The proclamation reads, whereas since 1981, Jeff Johnson has been the head golf professional at Sunflower Hills Golf Course, where he has hosted numerous charity golf tournaments, taught approximately 6,500 golf lessons, and since 2001 has served as the first tee administrator. In 1987, he shot a 64, the competitive course record at Sunflower Hills Golf. And whereas Mr. Johnson has been the winner of various Pro-Ams, Pro-Pros, and Midwest Professional Association tournaments, achieving Master Professional status in 1996, and whereas in 1992, Mr. Johnson was the Midwest PGA Professional Golf of the Year. In 2004, he was the Midwest PGA Junior Golf Leader. In 2005 and 2007, he was elected to the Baker University Athletic Hall of Fame and the Quarter Century Club of the PGA of America, respectively. And in 2011, he received special recognition from the Junior Golf Foundation of Greater Kansas City for leadership, devotion, and service. And whereas Jeff Johnson was instrumental in building a 6-hole par 3 golf course with driving range dedicated to teaching junior golf in Wyandotte County, and has seen the Sunflower Hills Golf Course program grow from 8 participants in 1981 to over 900 participants annually since 2002. And whereas, besides his work at Sunflower Hills, Mr. Johnson has served his community as a board member of the Kansas City, Kansas Convention and Visitors Bureau, and a member of the Kansas City, Kansas Chamber of Commerce, participant in the Clubs of Kansas program, and a member of the St. Pat's Church. And whereas Jeff Johnson was inducted into the Midwest section of the Professional Golf Association Hall of Fame on December 2nd, 2013, now therefore, I, Mark R. Holland, Mayor CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim January 9th, 2014, Jeff Johnson Day.
Jeff, we'd ask you to come forward at this time. I'd also ask Tom Roberts to make a presentation as well. But I also understand there are several members of the Golf Advisory Board for Wyandotte County who are here tonight. If you're a member of that Golf Advisory Board, could you stand for us, please? I was mistaken in that notion. Yeah, there's one. There you go. He's already standing. I apologize for that. I do want to recognize former Commissioner Tom Cooley is also in the room tonight for this recognition, but I'll turn it over to Tom Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to everyone, Mayor Holland, commissioners, Mr. Hayes, and staff members who I worked with for many years. I'm very happy to be here. I spent 30 years of my career on the other side, sitting in the seat that Bridget occupies right now as your clerk, and the position is now held by very extremely talented Bridget Cobbins. Tonight it is an honor for me to represent your Sunflower Hills Golf Course Advisory Board. We have an excellent working relationship with our pro, Jeff Johnson. We would like to thank the mayor and the commission for recognizing Jeff as our golf pro at Sunflower Hills. Last month, as was stated, Jeff was inducted into the Midwest Section Hall of Fame. He is just the 12th person ever to be inducted, joining among others Tom Watson and Jug McSpadden. Jeff has been the head professional at Sunflower for 32 years. He has made Sunflower into one of the top public golf courses in the entire area. One of his major star accomplishments, as mentioned, was the 6-hole par 3 course dedicated to teaching junior golf in our community. Jeff and members of his family are in the second row here, are here this evening to share in this event. May I present the PGA Midwest Hall of Fame member, our own Jeff Johnson.
Mayor, commissioners, Mr. Hayes, Mr. Bach, and staff, I am truly honored at this recognition. This is something else. I am so privileged to be the golf professional at Sunflower Hills and to represent my community as such. It's a dream come true to work at Sunflower Hills, believe it or not. Even though I do go to work every day, I enjoy it and I love it. I love my community. 33 years ago, this past December, after I was announced as the head professional by the Golf Course Advisory Board, they took a chance on a native son, 24-year-old. Gary Stubbs called me into his office, then Director of Public Works, to negotiate my first contract. Mr. Stubbs sat me down and said, "Young man, you have 1 year. You're not going to get the money you're promised. Good luck." I stood up, shook his hand, looked him in the eye, said, "Mr. Stubbs, I hope to prove you wrong. I'll be here for a long time." And here I stand tonight. My dream has always been to be a golfer, but now it is now to be a teacher and to profess the love of the game to the people I come into contact with. I've always wanted to be at a golf course. There's no greater place to wake up and go to every morning. Green grass and blue skies. I see Mr. Kane frequently before the sun comes up. And it's a great place to work, great community to live in, great place to raise kids, my son and daughter, Nick and Katie. Now I have a granddaughter that I can't wait to teach how to play golf. My mother and my sisters, we were all, and my late brother, we all lived in Kansas City, Kansas for years. And I still have a great love for this community. The number of people I came in contact over the years, over the 33 years at Sunflower Hills, has been astonishing. Not only the residents and the patrons, but people outside of the community. There's nothing that gives me greater pleasure when a young person comes back in and they say, "Mr. Johnson, do you remember me?" And I remember their name. Those kids, their eyes get big and they say, "You remember me?" I said, "How could I forget you?" And there's so many stories like that I could sit here and talk to you about all night long. Over the years, working at Sunflower Hills, we've had very many dedicated individuals who've been out there. Mike Yodrich, our superintendent, has been there from day one. Chuck Ettinger, our right-hand man, my right-hand man, has been there from day one. Dedicated, hard-working people. My son-in-law, Randy Smith, been there for 20 years. Scott Saragusa, another young man who's worked for me since he was 12 years old, just running errands, and now he's full-time. Been there for 25 years. We're a big, happy family, part of our community. It gives me great pride to represent Sunflower Hills. Mr. Hayes, congratulations on your impending retirement. I truly have been honored with our relationship. It's been great. And finally, Mike Tobin. Mr. Tobin, where'd you go? There he is. Over the 32 years, Mike and I have had a lot of dealings. Always professional, never on time. But a great man to deal with. We've developed a great friendship, and we are very, very close. We strive to make Sunflower Hills the best it can be, and hope we can continue to do so in the future years. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you very much.
All right, as he's leaving, let's give Mr. Johnson a last round of applause. We have two distinct parts of our meeting tonight. The planning and zoning part of the meeting will be handled first, followed by the regular commission meeting. Before we begin the planning and zoning, I'll ask the clerk if there are any revisions to tonight's agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a blue sheet has been distributed. Under the mayor's agenda, we have a new item, it's item number 2, calendar items. Under the non-planning consent agenda, item number 2 is additional information, it's a resolution.
All right, thank you. I'll now ask the clerk to read our planning and zoning statement, followed by the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda.
We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor Mark Holland, Commissioner Hal Walker, at-large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Ann Mugia, District 3, Commissioner Terrence Maddox, District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Jim Walters, District 7, and Commissioner Jane Philbrook, District 8. As each petition is called this evening, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before this commission, the commission has 3 options. Number 1, it can approve the recommendation of the planning commissions with 6 votes. Number 2, it can override the planning commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. And number 3, it can return the matter to the planning commission for further consideration, together with the statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the planning commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the planning and zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the planning commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or staff, then the planning commission's recommendation on all items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there are any requests to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to stand up and request that an item be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted upon separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone to please turn them off or switch to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 5 minutes to state your views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. I will ask if any members of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any items on the agenda.
Do I hear any disclosures from the commission on the items before us?
That's all.
Thank you. Any other disclosures at this time? Let the record show I see no further disclosures.
I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Change of zone application item number 1, Byron Van Lerberg. Change of zone to modify the swimming pool stipulation to build at a beginning of stage 3 instead of page 2 at 2815 North 115th Street, recommended for approval. Special use permit applications item number 1, SP 2013-59, Wanda J. Shepherd, renewal of a special use permit for a kennel for 3 dogs at 2910 Esplanade Lane, recommended for approval for 5 years. Item 2, SP 2013-60, Joanne Piper, renewal of a special use permit for a kennel for a maximum of 25 dogs at 11240 Sam Clark Lane, recommended for approval for 10 years. Item 3, SP 2013-61, Mike Maloney for Universal Lubricants, renewal of a special use permit for the collection, storage, and marketing of used oil for burner fuel at 6016 South 66th Terrace, recommended for approval for 10 years. Item 4, SP 2013-62, Kelly D. Fountain, special use permit for a kennel at a maximum of 10 dogs at 3440 North 131st Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 5, SP 2013-63, Bob Fessler, renewal of a special use permit for a billboard at 1831 South 45th Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Plan review application item 1, PR 2013-35, Rob Tucker with Century Concrete, preliminary and final plan review for a wet batch concrete plant to replace the previously dry patch plant at 8901 Wooden Avenue, recommended for approval. Miscellaneous planning and zoning and ordinance rezoning property at 2706 South 65th Street from R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural District. Those are all items on the consent agenda.
All right, does any member of the commission or anyone in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on the planning and zoning consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all remaining items will be voted on by one vote to follow the recommendation of the planning commission. Commissioner Walker.
I want item number B5 set aside, please.
B5 is now set aside. Are there any others?
Move for approval of all remaining items.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Let the record show no one else has asked to remove anything. Roll call.
Roll call. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia. Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
All right, that brings us to the item that has been set aside, item B5. We'll turn that over to staff for presentation.
This item is recommended unanimously for approval by the Planning Commission. Did you have a question, Commissioner Walker?
I do, several.
For me or for the applicant?
Well, I'm just waiting. Are you going to
Go, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
It's on.
I am concerned, first of all, that after the planning commission recommends it, you place in your staff comments, the staff does not concur with the recommendations of the city planning commission. I know where this is located, you do too, along 635, on that hillside in front of an industrial area, and yet you have asked the business owner to put evergreens around the base of this. There is no water source to take care of these evergreens within any close proximity. So the businessman is going to plant a row of evergreens for screening of what I do not know, and those evergreens are going to die. I think that is a ridiculous requirement to impose on a billboard sign. I've looked at the recommended for 2 years. Now that means 2 years from now, the guy has to go through the same process, spend money, come up here for a billboard, and yet we give 10-year permits for a 25-dog kennel. We give 10-year permits for the storage and marketing of used oil for burner fuel at 601 South 66th Street. We give 5 years for a 3-dog kennel. I can understand a 2-year special use permit for a issue that will be problematic. What is problematic about a billboard as compared to these other items? I also find that the last comment, staff has not supported signs on undeveloped sites. And then it says, while this sign may be useful for the applicant and owner, staff believes that this outdoor advertising sign, commonly known as a billboard, will be just another distraction for drivers along Interstate 635. Rarely do billboards add anything substantive to our city's roadways. There are billboards within the city that are empty and ultimately detract from the surrounding areas. That sounds more like your personal opinion than it does a factual conclusion. I thought we made the policy up here about what billboards were or were not to be. So I'm very unhappy with this kind of an approach to a otherwise lawful and legitimate business. I'm unhappy about 2 years, so 2 years from now and every 2 years thereafter, a guy's gonna spend a couple of grand to come in here and get a billboard, and probably have to plant evergreens again that are going to die or only survive by natural luck. I don't understand those requirements under these circumstances. But what is it buffering from? 635 is 30 feet above the base of this billboard. Not happy about this one, Rob.
Administrator Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Walker, if I may, just point out that it is standard protocol and procedure for our staff to provide written opinion on matters that come through the planning process. Regret that we've not met your expectations on this, but I am going to ask Mr. Richardson to specifically respond to the technical points that you raised and allow him opportunity. But for all present, it is not uncommon, and in fact, we encourage our professional planning staff to offer opinion and recommendations on matters before the commission. Thank you.
The Commissioner, the timing, if you all would like to approve this for a longer period of time, you can do that by motion this evening. The Planning Commission ultimately made that decision and recommendation. It was our recommendation for 2 years. If they want to do it for more, if you want to do it for more, that's wholly up to your body and your decision-making authority under the zoning code. Likewise, you could remove the stipulation for evergreens. The matter of billboards and what they, how they impact roads, this is a widely held view of my profession related to the billboards and billboard industry. It's not my personal opinion. It's supported by my profession.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve SP-2013-63 for a period of 10 years, and that we do not require the planting of evergreens at the base, inasmuch as the evergreens at this particular location would not screen anything from anybody.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and second to amend the recommendation of the Planning Commission to extend the length of time from 2 to 10 years and to remove the stipulation of planting trees. I would ask the legal just to remind us about the vote necessary for that change.
That would require 8 votes.
Okay, thank you. It would require 8 votes. Commissioner Murguia.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I just want to say I really greatly appreciate Commissioner Walker's comments. In general, I'm concerned about our sign ordinance, and I understand Commissioner Walker has taken it upon himself to work diligently at offering some policy changes, and I really hope in the near future that our commission look very long and hard at what Commissioner Walker's recommendations are for moving forward, because I do think the sign ordinance has proved to be an impediment for many of our businesses here in the county. So, Commissioner Walker, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate all your hard work on the recommendations you're going to make on the new sign ordinance, and that's all I have to comment on.
Thank you. Commissioner Walters. Is your microphone on, sir? No, it's...
Help me out there, Mike, would you? I just have a question about precedent and practice about these various signs and how this sort of action by the commission tonight might reflect on future applications or former applications.
This is probably the only, what I would call active billboard special use permit that will be coming back before you all. So I don't think it'll have any effect on any existing signs. On future signs, the way the special use permit code section is written, their initial term is always 2 years, and then you all can pick the term following that. And so you could actually go much longer than 10 years if you wanted to. Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, I think the question I had was, are we treating people the same?
Sir, I think your microphone's off.
Well, Mike, help me out. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure we're treating people reasonably, equitably.
Right. The staff has not, to my knowledge, ever recommended in favor of a highway billboard. So from that perspective, I mean, our position has been the same since long before I arrived here.
Commissioner Townsend.
Good evening. I have a question about the length of time, and I guess it's similar to the inquiry.
Can you please speak directly into the microphone?
I guess it's similar to, yeah, it's on.
It's on, it just,
Okay.
we can't hear you.
My question was, I guess, similar in nature to Commissioner Walters. Is 10 years something that's consistent, or something that's been done before in terms of the length of time for a billboard?
This is the first one, I believe, to be approved since I've been on the staff. So I think all the other ones were approved previous to that, and I don't know that they have an expiration date on them.
Did that answer your question? Commissioner McKiernan.
Well, I guess my question is somewhat similar to that, and I was just wondering, have there been similar stipulations for a double row of trees at the base of any other? But if you haven't approved any other, then there would have been no similar stipulations made.
Right. The only other case I can recall is one at 78th and I-70, and I don't recall the specifics of those stipulations.
Okay. I would just echo what Commissioner Walters had said, that we just want to make sure that everything is the same from case to case. But I would go back to the number 3 on the staff response, and there was that comment that Commissioner Walker read. There are billboards within the city that are empty and ultimately detract from the surrounding area. And I would say from my perspective, that's an accurate statement. And even as we are looking at new billboards, I think as we examine the sign ordinance, we ought to go look at some of those that either have a framework that is old and rusted and ugly, or are truly empty and are a nuisance in our neighborhoods. So I would just say let's make sure that we go back and clean up what's not being used.
Commissioner Walker.
One final comment, Commissioner McKiernan. I have been working on a sign ordinance that will authorize the construction of what are commonly called, there's a term of art, but they are multi-face LED signs. They exist in every city around us, but we are prohibited in this county by our ordinances from having them. And as a result of, if my ordinance is adopted or the concept is adopted, for every one of these that will be built, the owner will have to take down, under my proposal, twice the face size of other billboards. The intent here is to force CBS and Lamar, which own all these small billboards in the inner city east of 635, to start taking those down, because billboards that exist in this community exist ad infinitum. There was no special use permit for them. So they will stand until they fall over. And we need to get them down, and one way to do it is by inducing them to remove other billboards. Now, you may change the fraction. You may say it's 3 to 1, 4 to 1. I don't know what that right multiple is. But when you get this and review it, that is one of the key features, that if we let somebody put up an LED board, they're going to have to take down, under my proposal, twice as many. And in the 1st, the 3rd, and the 6th district, that will be a lot of small nuisance billboards that are never, except at election time, have anything on it. Right, Mayor?
Some have said that's a nuisance. All right, so we have a recommendation before us to change the recommendation from 2 to 10 years and to remove the stipulation for the trees to be planted. It has been properly moved and seconded. It does require 8 votes for a supermajority to override the Planning Commission. I see no one else looking to speak, so I will call for roll call.
Roll call. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook. Aye. Walker.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you very much. All right, that completes our planning and zoning consent agenda. We do have we have no non-consent items. Is that correct? That completes our planning and zoning portion of our meeting, and we are now ready for our regular portion of our meeting. Before we begin that portion, I do want to recognize an elected official who is here, a member of the Kansas City, Kansas Community College Board of Trustees, Ms. Marianne Flunder. Thank you for joining tonight. We appreciate your being here. All right. We now have before us the consent agenda for our regular session, and I will ask, does any member of the commission or anyone in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on this consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on this agenda will be voted on by one vote.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to iterate that under the mayor's agenda, on the blue sheet, we have the item. I think you were going to defer that to the end of the
Yes, the
agenda
blue sheet
tonight.
item we will take last. Thank you.
Second.
All right, it is, yes, ma'am, if you would like to remove something, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mary Martin, resident of Wyandotte County. Do you want my specific address?
Your address, please.
804 South 89th Street,
Thank you.
Kansas City, Kansas, 66111. I would like to set aside the number 2 resolution, distribution of funds from the Hollywood Casino.
Okay, that item will be set aside. Thank you. Any other items? The remaining items have been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Roll call. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia. Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
That brings us now to the distribution of funds from the Hollywood Casino. That has been set aside by Ms. Martin. Ma'am, you have set it aside. If you would like to state your reason for setting it aside, you're welcome to do that at this time.
Well, I feel obligated to speak on it because I actually am the one that worked with Mayor Reardon when he was in office to get the set aside for the Hollywood Casino. I can talk specifically about it. It's Article 7.1, Article 7.2 under the contract with the Gaming Commission. It speaks very specifically about the contribution, or actually community contribution. And since I've been here, I've been very upset of how that money is being spent. I met with Mayor Reardon about that money when he was in office, and now I'm bringing it to you, especially since it's on the agenda tonight. And what I'd like to say is that I feel, because I'm one of the architects of that policy, that the money clearly is not being spent well. I know that the organizations, and you have a committee that looks at organizations, specifically the ones that have 501c3 in terms of getting the money, but that concerns me because the spirit of that article 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3 was for individuals that had innovative, creative ideas a chance to get some money to do public programs to enhance Wyandotte County. And when you just give money to 501c3 organizations that are already established, already in business, some of them need the money, some of them don't, but that's what they should be doing already. So we're still doing things that we've already done. We're not bringing in new, innovative ideas, as I see it. So I would like to ask the commissioners to think about letting other individuals apply for this grant money that is available, not specifically just for 501c3 organizations, so we can be innovative and creative as we do the business of getting this casino money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd ask Joe Connor to come forward. Joe Connor has brought this to us. One clarification I want to make also, which is in your blue sheet, is just the information on this as it has been presented to you. So we have talked about this at length, and I'm looking to see where that sheet is. There is a memo from me that is included in your blue sheet that just makes note of one change. We had 6 members of the original committee that decided on the grants. The decision by this body was made to simply stay with that group for a second year. We did have one member step down, Dr. Tom Burke stepped down. That position was originally appointed by Commissioner Cooley, and that would fall then to Commissioner Walters if he was interested. Commissioner Walters stated he was comfortable with just the 5 people continuing to move forward, and so that is the recommendation that you have before you. I just wanted to point that out because it is in the blue sheet and was not in your original packet, just for clarification. So does anyone have any of the commissioners have any questions or comment about this as it now stands? Commissioner McKiernan.
Well, I would just ask that, certainly I would make a motion that we approve the item as it was originally brought forward, but that we also make a note, make a bookmark, so to speak, and just mark that we will, the next time we discuss this procedure, specifically discuss the pros and cons of non-501c3s being recipients of funds through this fund.
Absolutely, and I think we can task Mr. Connor with that specifically. I know this has been an active topic of discussion that we have had, both when we set this up and when we renewed it. It has been a live conversation with the commission in the past. Commissioner Murguia.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I'm just reiterating a little bit different way what you're already saying, which is there are a couple of commissioners, actually 3 of us, that have been serving on a sort of a review committee of these funds every year. And as you know, this is only the 2nd year. And there were some really out-of-the-box ideas thrown out about this money. And I think these 3 commissioners are going to continue to bring forward other sorts of out-of-box ideas for this money. So I know that those people that are interested in meeting with those commissioners and talking about what they would like to see with that money, I'm sure that committee would be more than open to meeting with anybody in the public that's interested in seeing changes with that money.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to restate what Mrs. Martin said. You said that you were an architect or someone who sat in the meetings as a replica of what came forward with the distribution of the casino dollars. Then you mentioned 7.1, 7.2. What is? Can you talk more about that? Because
Are you asking her a direct question?
yes, I'm asking her a
Yes,
question
ma'am. You
to
can
talk
come
about
forward
with
and
the
answer question,
7.1,
please.
7.2.
Well, it was a legal agreement between Wyandotte County, Piper, and Bonner Springs, and the casino. And basically, the attorneys, I don't know if any of them are on staff and remember it, but the attorneys drew it up. I followed it through because I was involved in it. So I know that the attorneys did draw it up because I do have a copy. Don't have one with me today, but can produce it. And under the community contribution portion of that contract, that also says that the hotel has to be started digging January of 2014. That's in there too, all right? So it's very specific. Under Article 7.1, it's called community contribution. So that talks about how the money is to be divvied out, to what counties, what dates, and how it's going to be done. 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3, and I know that Dennis Hayes can speak on it, and I'm pretty sure Gordon Criswell can speak on it because when I had the meeting with the mayor, Joe Reardon, the former mayor, Gordon Criswell sat in on that meeting.
The reason why I was interested because that you had mentioned that there could be personal contributions for individuals who had programs or different things they were trying to put on, and as I go back, I don't remember us visiting that, and so I didn't have the document with the 7.1, 7.2.
Okay, well,
Let me interject here for a moment. Commissioner, when we last reviewed this, we did have the specific provisions from the casino development agreement. I would ask Administrator Hayes to please give a copy of those specific components. Actually, if you could do a memo to all the commissioners, just to refresh everyone's memory about the specific provisions. But when we addressed this last time, when we set this to move forward, we specifically reviewed those development agreement items, item by item. So-
Okay. Well, still in the midst of that, I'm saying that we did agree as a commission to only appropriate 501c3 organizations, not personal individuals.
Right.
And so if that was a part of it, we want to revisit that for that alone. That's why I asked that question.
And there is the rub, because I had the contract, and it never mentions 501c3 at all. So that's just a determination that the committee that was appointed afterwards decided to do.
That is correct. There is no provision that states either way, and the committee made the determination last year that we would only give grants to 501c3 organizations, and we reviewed that specific piece again this year and decided to continue it for one more year before we reviewed it at length again. So this has been reviewed, if everyone remembers that correctly. All right, so it is before us.
I did. Make a motion to approve as forwarded to the commission.
It is moved and seconded. I see no further comments. I will ask for roll call. Yes, Mike Keen seconded.
Roll call, Townsend.
Was Mr. Connor going to speak?
Not unless you had any questions.
I'm good with not speaking, that's good.
In that case, aye. Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker. The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Excellent presentation. All right, that brings us now to our standing committee agenda. It is a new designation, a planning commission as Board of Zoning Appeals. This was brought to the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee. I will turn it over to Commissioner Markley, who chaired that meeting.
Thanks, Mayor. So one of the things that we discussed sort of briefly is this idea of looking at our boards and commissions and seeing whether there are any that should be consolidated for efficiency
Is your
purposes.
microphone on?
It's on. Maybe they're just all turned out today. I don't know. Can't hear any of us, but so Rob Richardson approached us because he's at a point with this Board of Appeals where all of their terms are turning over anyway. So if we were going to make a consolidation of two boards, now would be the time to do it because the terms are all rolled over as it is. This Board of Zoning Appeals, as I understand it, it takes appeals from staff's determination. So I think one concern as standing committee, and the reason it isn't on the consent agenda is I think that we needed to sort of clarify that. When we talk about appeals, we're talking about appeals from staff decisions. It's appealed to this Board of Zoning Appeals. So Rob's recommendation to us was that we combine that with our planning and zoning. So just like our role as a commission when we adjourn and then become the land bank board, the planning commission would now be able to adjourn and become this Board of Zoning Appeals, and it would be the same set of members. They would have a separate set of bylaws, and they'd have a separate meeting for that separate board, but they would be combined into one. They'd meet on the same night. That would create some efficiency for people that were coming before both boards for some sort of item, and obviously our planning commission has a little different level of understanding of items that are coming to them that might also be applicable to that appeals board. So that's the recommendation. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good step forward in our consolidation efforts.
Okay, is there any discussion about this item? It comes before us, it was not unanimous, so it does not go on consent. It was voted 4-1. Commissioner Murguia.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, I think this idea is brilliant, and kudos to the committee and people that worked on it. I just think it streamlines our process. It keeps people on the same page. It's just an amazing idea. So kudos to the staff that worked on it and to the commissioners on the committee.
That was Rob Richardson's idea.
Well, good job, Rob.
I move to accept the.
It has been moved and seconded to consolidate these two. I see no further debate. Roll call.
Roll call, Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker. The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
All right, thank you. That brings us now to the administrator's agenda. This is we met at 5 o'clock. That meeting was televised here in the chamber when we discussed the extension request for the construction of a casino hotel. I'm going to turn it over to Administrator Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one item on the administrator's agenda this evening. I would note for those present, those watching from home, that we presented this item to the commission at 5 p.m. in an earlier workshop session. We did a presentation of history regarding the casino and the proposed hotel. We also presented the communication that has come to the commission from the casino ownership group requesting a 90-day extension of time. Mayor, we can go into the detail that you and the commission would wish. We also have representatives of Penn Gaming and Kansas Speedway, Kansas Entertainment Group present, and we can invite them to offer comments. So it's however the commission would like to handle it, Mayor.
My recommendation, we have heard the presentation. There were a number of questions asked by the commission. So I would just ask the commissioners if there are any specific questions you want to address to the casino group that made the request. You're welcome to do that. If you would like to hear the presentation again, we can do that as well. But my inclination is to move to questions, and if there are no questions for the group, then I would entertain a motion. Commissioner Philbrook. Okay.
Gentlemen, if you'd come forward, please. Introduce yourselves, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Bob Sheldon. I'm the Vice President and General Manager at Hollywood Casino.
And I'm Jeff Berger, 400 Speedway Boulevard with Kansas Speedway Development Corporation.
Okay, so something that I am really curious about is, what's the big difference between now and 3 months from now?
Well, really, the process to design and develop a plan to begin construction and most importantly, to estimate costs. So certainly we've had a lot of economic challenges over the past couple of years. I think the economy is looking a little bit better. We look at the success of the hotels, both in the Kansas City metro area as well as our general area, their occupancy levels and average rates and revenues, and which have been frankly not been that encouraging. But again, we see light at the end of the tunnel. We've done a significant amount of financial analysis to really determine the feasibility, but really from a financial standpoint of building a hotel, operating, what type of revenues and ongoing expenses we'd experience. But the key element there is really what the cost to develop and build will be. We're fully engaged, so we've delayed that process really because of a lot of the factors in the past couple of years. We've been fully engaged in that over the recent months. We are currently at this point, we've got our architects, Carl Yeager and Associates, Turner Construction, and as well as a large number of our resources in our corporate design and development team at Penn, as well as at International Speedway Corporation. So the process is well underway now. It's just not complete. And it's really important for us to get an accurate cost to what the construction would be. And that's really what it's all about. So really doing all the design efforts, not just to get an estimate or a guess, but to be really specific, because it's a significant dollar amount. I mean, we're talking anywhere between $55 to $75 million just to get the project done. So in order to commit that and understand what the pro forma would be, that's the time we're taking to do that.
Well, the reason I'm asking you directly is I want to look in your eyes and see the commitment that you have for the community. Because, I mean, I know you guys have come in and that financial issues always come to play with the type of economy we've had. But I just wanted to see that commitment, and you say that you are committed to make this work, and that by this extension, that you will be turning over some dirt and starting to work.
Well, I can't tell you today, we're not in a position today to say we will absolutely start. That's really why we need the time.
So in 30 days, you'll have a plan in effect?
By May 1st, we'll have a plan and a commitment of resources from our company to go forward with it, or not. But frankly, listen, this is my life in the gaming and hospitality business. I've been been working on this and pushing for our company to get the commitments, because I want to build a hotel. Our customers would like to see it, but it really just comes down to, is it a good business decision and one that's in the best interest of the shareholders of both our corporations?
Well, yeah, I mean, I will say I would love to have the hotel here, and I'm all for having the hotel here. I just want you guys to know that I'm holding you to it.
Listen, I get that, and I'm committed to finding every way to make this work.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
So just for clarification, in 90 days, you'll tell us, yes, we're going to build a hotel, or you'll cut us a check for the 1% of gaming revenues, which we estimate to be around $1.3 million. Is that right?
Right. Well, we
We'll honor our 1%.
yeah. Okay.
That's great.
And this will be a one-time ask.
Yeah, this is a one-time
Yes.
one-time position. That is clear as well. Commissioner Murguia.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this open for any kind of public comment this evening?
I think if someone is here and they want to make a public comment, I think they would be welcome to come forward at this time.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. I think that's going to happen.
Would you like to come forward and make a comment, gentlemen?
Good evening. My name is Marcia Rupp. I live at 2816 North 46th Street. I have a big interest in the casino and the hotel out there, but I don't think it's going to be as big a thing unless we put a convention center in with a shuttle system. I mean, if we're going to do this, let's do it big. That Republican convention that's coming in 16, we could have had that convention here with a shuttle system and a convention center. Plus an auto car show, garden show, and we have everything centrally located. It's perfect. This would bring money in. This would solve our problem about always worrying about the property taxes. We would be bidding on every event that comes in. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Would you like to comment? Administrator Hayes.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, just for the record, the staff recommendation in this regard is contained in your agenda package. It includes the following. First, that this would be a one-time 90-day extension. Secondly, that should the decision be made not to proceed forward, that we would immediately proceed forward with the enforcement of the penalty provision for 2014. Those are the recommendations, Mayor. I'd also point out, Chief Counsel has passed out, Jody, I believe, a resolution that for official adoption. So any action, we would recommend that it be approval of the resolution authorizing amendment of this development agreement accordingly.
Thank you. All right, I'm not seeing any more comments. Is there a motion? I wasn't going to get involved in that. It has been properly moved and seconded. Roll call.
Roll call. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Muggia.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker. The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
All right, that concludes our agenda. Thank you, gentlemen, for being
Thank you,
here.
Commissioners.
We now have one more blue sheet item from the mayor's agenda, and it is calendar items. There have been, we haven't had many meetings over the holidays, and we're back for the new year, and we have a full agenda for the first quarter. And so what I want to do, there have been numerous requests from the commissioners, and the commissioners have asked to have additional meetings on the Thursday nights that we do not currently have meetings. So what I want to show you, I think there was an attempt to make these colored copies, but they do look like they came off a mimeograph machine. And Administrator Hayes, I'd like you to search this building, and if you find a mimeograph machine, I'd like you to get rid of it.
It may be located with my pager, Mayor. I'll check.
Yes. Well, if you would please take both of those with you upon your retirement, we would appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have first quarter 2014 commission meeting dates. So if you would look at this, you see we are sitting in the January 9th meeting. We have an open date next week. We have January 23rd and 30th. We have open date on February 13th. We have our strategic planning on March 8th. And we have an open date on March 13th. So I want to bring that to your attention. And if the commission is amenable to using the off dates, those 3 off dates, I'd want you to mark those off on your calendar. If you're not amenable, I mean, we need to hear that because we need to know how many people will be present for the meetings. But this would, the 16th, February 13th, and March 13th would fill up our calendar for every Thursday night in the first quarter. So that's what, yes, ma'am.
What time are we thinking those are going to start? I mean, are we doing a 7 p.m. thing?
Well, that's open for discussion. The last time we did this, we did it at 5 o'clock. People had stated they'd prefer to come straight after work and leave earlier. And so we looked at an hour and a half to 2 hour slot, finishing by 6:30 or 7. That's what we have done in the past. Is that what folks would like to continue to do? Okay, I see a consensus. That's what we continue to do. Commissioner Kane,
I'll be hunting next week.
what will you be hunting for?
I will be hunting wild hogs.
Okay, we have a hunter and gatherer among us. Good luck with that. He's headed to Texas. All right, so that is next, the 16th. Now, what I want to also point out to you on the facing page is a proposed calendar of budget. This is the proposal that we talked about at our last strategic plan that was brought to us by Commissioners McKiernan and Markley to accelerate our budget timing so that we would spend more time on the budget and the preparation for the budget and laying out our priorities for the budget. So we have, it calls for a citizen survey, which has been approved. The citizen survey has been approved. It's underway. We have February 6th, if you look, you'll see preliminary 2013 end-of-year general fund estimates. By the first week in February, we will have our final numbers for 2013, which are essential for starting to make decisions about 2014. February 6th, we have slated for our first public budget hearing for the unified government. State law mandates that happen in August, at least one in August before the adoption of the budget. We have always, since I've been up here for the last 7 years, had one in May prior to the beginning of the budget season. This is pushing this back to February, so we actually have more time to consider the recommendations. And so that is slated for February 6th. I will come back to that because we have a couple of items related to that. February 8th is our strategic planning. So here, this gives you the structure. March 8th, thank you. So we're going to have our citizen survey. We will have those results. We will have the results of our end-of-the-year budget numbers, and we will have had presentation by the public at the budget hearings. So we will have all 3 pieces of data that we will then bring to our strategic planning session, review the results of all 3 of those, and begin talking about procedure for our budget. We will also, after that, on March 20th, deliver the commission and staff budget priorities to the staff so that they can begin preparing a first draft of the budget that includes the discussion that we have. Now, on May 30th, we have the annual financial audit complete. That gives us our real final numbers so that we can begin building our budget with the final numbers that we will have. And then in June, we will we'll be in the middle of the budget discussion. We'll get the final assessed values on June 27th. That's by state. I wish there were a way to bump that up 2 months because it's really critical for our budget formation to get the final assessed values. And then the county administrator the new county administrator will present the budget on July 10th, and then we will work that specific budget for the next couple of weeks after that. So that's the budget calendar that we have adopted. And in order to accomplish that, there are a number of departments that we're going to need to hear from lining that up. So I'm inclined to look at topics specific to budget in this first quarter. I've had numerous requests from the commissioners in terms of how to populate those. And we also have our normal meetings where we have a number of requests for 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, some that we choose and some that are presented to us that we have to deal with. So that's the big picture. And I want to touch base on that and kind of wrap that up. And then I want to talk specifically about a recommendation for that first public hearing. So are there any questions about the first quarter? I see a consensus by this whole commission to do the 3 extra meetings starting at 5 o'clock and doing an hour and a half to 2 hours for each of those evenings. I see that consensus clearly. All right? We've already adopted our budget calendar. That's underway. Are there any questions about those 2 specific items? All right? Now, there was a great deal of discussion that we had at our last meeting that we're going to have our public hearing on February, and then the option of having a funding proposal form for any citizen, community organization, or commissioner that they could fill out. Now, that is included in your packet for consideration. This was drawn up as a draft. If this is something that you want to use, this form to formalize these requests, we can adopt this and we would need to publicize it right away. If it's not, but there was considerable debate last time about whether or not we even wanted to do this. So I think we need to make sure we have consensus on whether or not we want to do this. And then if we do, we're going to need to move quickly so we give people at least 30 days to consider it. All right, Commissioner Markley.
So, I guess whether we use the form or not for me depends on what we're going to do with the form. I think my sense was that we were ditching the idea of a form unless we took the form only to give it to the relevant department to see if they wanted to include it within their departmental budget. And I'm fine with that. If we want to let people fill out the form and we want to say your request would fall under this department's budget, what if we don't want is what I thought we didn't want, what I thought our discussion had been, is that we don't want to create this idea that there's like this huge pond of money out there, because those of you who've been to our meetings often, you know there isn't such a pond of money, that people can just come in and give us applications and we're going to dole out checks to them. So I don't mind using the form, but only if we find a way to market it so that people understand you're going to be requesting money from a specific department, and if that doesn't fall under any department, there's not a pond of money out there that you can draw from.
I think that reflects my understanding of what we talked about. Commissioner McKiernan.
Well, I was just going to say the very same thing. That reflects my understanding of what we wanted to put in place, that this first budget hearing was a chance for input on budget priorities, just input on the global budget direction, but not necessarily a time for application for general funds, so to speak.
Well, one of the things we talked about is people come forward and have requests, and if they have a request and they did a form, then we could give that to a particular department to consider. But what we don't have is X number of dollars where we're providing a grant application opportunity to fund particular things. That if people want to suggest, and I hate to give an example, but I'll give an example. We had a group come forward and say there was a need for an additional bus line. Well, we had to go back to the transportation department, have them do a recommendation to see how that would work, to run an additional bus line to KU Med, and we had to work it. Now, what we didn't have is, well, that we have X number of dollars so we can do that. We had to take that back to that department, and they had to work it out to see how we could make that happen. What that does is if a particular department gets that and says, we don't want to do that, or it doesn't fit into our budget, then it doesn't go in. It is a budget recommendation that people can make to do something, and it's more specific. So That's my recollection. Commissioner Walker.
You may have been trying to say the same thing, and I'm just not, I'm too distracted to soak it in. What I want this year is not to have this 11th hour group of people come in, all of them, I'm sure, sincere in needing the money. Whether we use the form or how we use the form, we can decide that later, but by a date certain, if you're going to want money or funding from us, you submit this form. It can be a generic form, it can be specific, but if you don't submit that form by a certain date, and it's incumbent on us to get the word out that if you're wanting money, we don't know how much you're going to get or if you're going to get any at all, but if you don't submit this form, don't show up at a budget hearing, sign in, and then step up and ask for money, because we have no way to effectively evaluate that in the 11th hour. I just want I want to have them on record so we've got a chance to review it before we say yay or nay.
I think that is the intent. I will note that the suggestion in here, and I want to just thank the budget office and our intern who in the budget office for drafting this up. They put a lot of time and thought into this about how this might work. Their suggestion is that people can come on February 6th to the public hearing. They can make their recommendation. If they would like, they can take a form and they would be due February 20th. So we would have all of those forms in our hand ahead of our retreat, and then we could decide whether or not we even want to advance it to a department to even consider. If we don't think it's worth consideration, we're not going to hand it to our department. And then we can respond back to the applicant and say, we took it under consideration, and we have decided we're not moving it forward this time, or we can say we took it under consideration and we've asked the department to look into it, and we will let you know what the department's decision is later on. But that could bring some closure to it, and then we will have had a good discussion about it. And so we're not in the world of the yellow sheet of the horse trading in the 11th hour. I think that's what we're all trying to avoid, and I think this is an opportunity to help move us in that direction. Commissioner Murguia?
So just two comments, one for clarity and then just a comment about something else we're doing. So this form, if someone comes in and picks one up and fills it out, will we decide what department is appropriate to review the form? I think that's fantastic if that's the process,
right.
because a lot of people that want to make a request aren't as familiar with government, and they make requests all the time to the wrong department.
Yes.
So I think that's very appropriate. The other thing I just want to maybe figure out a way to remind citizens is that this citizen survey that's going to go out is going to give this commission a lot of direction on what the community's priorities are in very specific areas. So I'd encourage the people that are interested in bringing something forward that if it dovetails with the results of this community-wide survey, I would assume that that would have a lot more leverage than just bringing forward an individual's idea.
I think that's right. And one of the things that would be attached, and I like this, if you see on page 6 of 6 in this proposal, what would be attached to it would be our goals that the Board of Commissioners have set. So you have a list of our goals: housing, infrastructure, education, workforce development, economic development, multimodal transportation, social services, health, community recreation, environment, and public safety. If what you're proposing doesn't fit into one of those pretty broad goals, my prediction is it's not going to go anywhere. And then I think it is a service that we can provide and this was something that was very difficult. We were funding things out of general budget last time at the 11th hour that probably should have been in a particular area. And I think this alleviates that we will help the public as they bring recommendations forward know where it should go. If it's going to go anywhere, it's going to come out of this department. And it doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere, but that's where it belongs for it to have a chance. So I think that's a good, transparent process. I would ask this question. This came to you tonight, this suggestion for this form. do you want some time to review this and look it over before we approve it? Do you want to approve? If we approve it, I would be inclined to get it out right away as we start the publicity for our public hearing. Are you comfortable with it? All right. So I will,
I move that we accept this form and move forward with this.
okay, it has been moved and seconded. I don't know that action is necessary since we've all made the consensus decision. It's not a resolution, it's just our decision. If people are comfortable with it, I don't know that we need to vote on it. I'm always glad to vote. All right, let's do it. Roll call.
Roll call. Townsend?
Aye.
McKiernan?
Aye.
Mugia? Maddox?
Aye.
Kane? Kane? Markley?
Aye.
Walters?
Aye.
Philbrook?
Aye.
Walker? The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Okay, so what I will do, we have a meeting next Thursday at 5 o'clock. It will be upstairs in our our new fifth floor conference room, and it will be televised. So everyone tune in 5 o'clock or come down to the commission chamber or come down to the city hall, and we will have that agenda put forward, and I will plan to have that agenda out Monday to all of you for review. And what I'll try to do is look ahead to the next couple so you can see what's coming. Fair enough? All right, any other questions or comments about the agenda or the timing of our meetings? All right, I want to thank everyone, and this meeting is adjourned.